Mason Reeves wiped his hands on a rag, smearing grease across his already stained coveralls. He exhaled, stepping back from the half-dismantled thruster array of an old freighter. The dockyard was a mess of sparks, chatter, and the heavy clang of metal. But for Mason, it was home. "Reeves!" barked a voice from behind him. He turned to see Grelk, his foreman, stomping toward him with an irritated twitch in his mandibles. The insectoid Zalari was always in a bad mood, but today his frills were practically shaking. "You got a job," Grelk said, thrusting a data pad into Mason's chest. "Big one." Mason frowned, taking the pad. "I'm kinda in the middle of." "Drop it. High-priority client. You leave in an hour." Mason scanned the details. The job was off-world, repairs on a large-class vessel suffering from a complete engine failure. No name, just coordinates. That wasn't unheard of. Some clients like privacy. But something about it felt off. Still, work was work. He sighed. "Fine. I'll get my tools." The journey took him to a remote sector, a drifting ship silhouetted against a dying star. As his shuttle docked, the sheer scale of the vessel took his breath away. It was massive, larger than any corporate ship he'd worked on. The airlock hissed, and Mason stepped aboard, greeted by the deep silence of a ship without power. He adjusted his toolkit and moved cautiously through the dim corridors. "Hello," he called out. No response. The client was supposed to meet him here. He pressed forward, guided by a scanner. The engines were completely shot, that much was clear. He set down his tools and got to work, fingers moving automatically as he assessed the damage. An hour passed before he heard it. A deep, resonant voice that vibrated through the deck. "You're human." Mason turned sharply, coming face to face with the largest alien he had ever seen. A towering, scaled woman with gleaming golden eyes stared down at him. She had an air of authority, her stance both regal and predatory. Yeah," he said, gripping his wrench. "And you are?" The alien studied him for a moment before responding. "Vass. This is my ship." Mason relaxed slightly. "Good. I was starting to think I was fixing a ghost ship." Vass didn't smile, but something in her gaze shifted. "Can you repair it?" He glanced at the mess of cables and ruined components. "I can try, but it won't be easy. We're cheap." Vass tilted her head. "Money isn't an issue. Just fix it." Mason exhaled and rolled up his sleeves. "All right then. Let's see what we got here." As he got back to work, he felt Vass's eyes on him, watching, measuring. There was something strange about this job, and Mason had a feeling he was about to find out what. Mason knelt beside the ruined engine core, running a diagnostic with his handheld scanner. The results were worse than he expected. The primary drive was completely fried, multiple coolant lines had ruptured, and the auxiliary systems were overloaded beyond safe repair. "Whoever did this wasn't just careless," Mason muttered. "This was sabotage." Vass remained silent for a moment before responding. "I suspected as much." Mason glanced at her. "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not." Vass's golden eyes flickered. "But I didn't think they'd go this far." Mason set his tools down, rubbing his temples. "All right, well, fixing this isn't going to be quick. We'll need new parts, and, given where we are, I doubt there's a supply station around the corner." Vass crossed her arms. "What do you need?" He sighed. "A replacement plasma coupler, a new fusion relay, and at least 3 meters of reinforced coolant tubing. But we're adrift in the middle of nowhere." Vass tapped a panel on the wall. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing a stash of spare components. Mason raised an eyebrow. "Convenient." "I come prepared," Vass said simply. Mason pulled out the parts, inspecting them. "These'll do. But even with this, I'll need at least a day to get everything running again." Vass nodded. "Do what you must." Mason got back to work, but as the hours passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Vass wasn't just another client. She carried herself like someone used to command. And if this was sabotage, someone wanted her out of the picture. But why? As he worked, Vass remained nearby, watching him in silence. Finally, Mason spoke up. "So, you gonna tell me who you really are?" Vass met his gaze. "Does it matter?" Mason wiped sweat from his brow. "Depends. If someone's trying to kill you, I'd like to know what I've walked into." A pause. Then Vass sighed. "I own the company that hired you." Mason blinked. Jorvin Shipworks? That's you. Vass inclined her head. Yes, and someone within my own company wants me dead. Mason exhaled. Great. So I'm not just fixing a ship. I'm standing in the middle of a corporate assassination plot. Vass's expression remained unreadable. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. Mason snorted. Not like I have much choice. We're dead in the water until I finish these repairs. Vass's lips curled slightly. Then you'd best get back to work. Mason grumbled, but returned to his tools. Whatever he'd gotten himself into, it was too late to back out now. Mason tightened the last bolt on the fusion relay, double-checking the connections before sealing the panel shut. The repairs were progressing faster than expected, but something still gnawed at the back of his mind. Vass had admitted she owned Jorvin Shipworks, meaning this wasn't just some random repair job. This was tangled in corporate sabotage, maybe even an assassination attempt. And now, he was in the thick of it. A sharp beeping sound pulled him from his thoughts. His scanner had detected a secondary failure deep within the ship's mainframe. What now? Mason muttered, pulling up the readout. What he saw sent a chill down his spine. The ship wasn't just damaged. It was infected. A foreign program was buried in the system, something designed to trigger a catastrophic overload the moment power was fully restored. If Mason hadn't found it, the entire ship would have gone up in flames the second he flipped the switch. Vass, he called. She was already at his side in an instant, her golden eyes narrowing as she took in his expression. What is it? Mason turned the scanner toward her. There's a kill switch in the system. Someone planted it to make sure this ship never flies again. If I hadn't caught it, we'd be dead. For the first time, Vass's calm demeanor cracked. Her mandibles twitched, and a low growl rumbled in her chest. I knew there were traitors, but I didn't think they'd go this far. Mason exhaled. Can you trace it back to who did it? Vass hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but I'll need access to the ship's black box. It records all system changes. Mason glanced toward the main console. Then we better get to it before whoever did this realizes we're still breathing. They moved quickly. Mason pulled open a floor panel, revealing the black box's data port. He plugged in his terminal, bypassing the security protocols with practiced ease. The log scrolled across his screen, revealing a single name attached to the sabotage entry. Lord Vesk. Vass's body went rigid. That traitor, friend of yours? Mason asked dryly. He was my second in command. Vass's voice was tight with anger. And he just signed his death warrant. Before Mason could respond, the ship's emergency lights flared to life. A proximity alert blared through the speakers. We got incoming, Mason muttered. Vass checked the scanners. It's a Jorvin security patrol. They're hailing us. Mason frowned. That's good, right? They're your people. Vass's mandibles clicked. Not if Vess got to them first. If they think I'm dead and you're an intruder, they won't be coming to help. Mason swore under his breath. We need a plan. Fast. Vass clenched her fists. We're going to take our ship back. And then, we're going after Vesk. The Jorvin security patrol was closing in fast. Mason and Vass worked frantically. He bypassed the ship's lockdown protocols while Vass prepared for a fight. The moment power returned, she'd have full control. But until then, they were sitting ducks. The external comm system crackled. Unidentified intruder, surrender immediately. You are in violation of Jorvin security protocols. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Vass's mandibles tightened. They think I'm dead. They'll shoot first and ask questions later. Mason grit his teeth. Then we better move fast. With a final keystroke, he restored partial power to the ship. The engines flickered online, but weapons and shields remained disabled. The security team would be on them in seconds. Vass turned to Mason. Get to the main console and reroute all auxiliary power to propulsion. If we can't fight, we run. Mason nodded and sprinted toward the controls. Outside, the security patrol's gunships locked onto their coordinates. Warning shots streaked past the hull. We're out of time, Mason shouted. Vass made a snap decision. She activated the emergency thrusters manually, throwing the ship into an uncontrolled lurch. The sudden movement threw Mason against the console, but it also forced the security patrol to hesitate. Hold on, Vass roared, gripping the controls. "I'm taking us out of here." The ship blasted forward, narrowly avoiding another volley of gunfire. Mason rerouted every ounce of power to the engines, pushing them beyond safety limits. "We're not going to last at this rate," he yelled over the alarms. Vass bared her fangs. "We just need to last long enough to reach the outer asteroid belt. Once we're there, we can lose them." But the security ships were relentless. They weren't trying to capture Vass. They were trying to eliminate her. Mason's heart pounded. "Vass, they're not letting up. If we don't change the odds, we're dead." She snarled. "Then we changed the odds." With a flick of her claws, Vass activated the ship's manual override and rerouted emergency power to one key system: defense countermeasures. Mason's eyes widened as he realized what she was doing. "Wait, those are..." Before he could finish, Vass deployed the ship's last resort measure, a field of high-density flares designed to blind enemy targeting systems. The security ships fired, but their shots went wild, missing by inches as their targeting systems scrambled. "Now!" Vass roared. Mason slammed the controls forward, sending the ship into a dangerous high-speed maneuver. The gravitational pull of the nearby asteroid belt caught them, and within seconds, they vanished into the dense rock field. Behind them, the security ships struggled to follow, but were forced to break off, unable to navigate the treacherous terrain at their speed. Breathing heavily, Mason collapsed against the console. "That was insane." Vass let out a heavy breath, her golden eyes burning with determination. "And it's not over. Vesk set this up. He wanted me dead. Now, we're going to make sure he regrets it." Mason exhaled. "So what's the plan?" Vass grinned, her fangs glinting. "We take back my company, and we start by crashing Vesk's little coup." Mason chuckled. "I like the sound of that. Let's make some noise." Vass wasn't one to hesitate when revenge was on the table. With their escape secured, she turned her attention to reclaiming what was rightfully hers. The ship was still running on emergency power, but that didn't matter. They had momentum now, and Mason had a plan. "Vest took over your company, right?" Mason asked, working furiously at the ship's console. "That means he's probably gloating somewhere high-profile. Corporate types love their victory laps." Vass narrowed her golden eyes. "He'll be at the orbital headquarters. The main conference hall. He'll want an audience." Mason smirked. "Perfect. Let's crash the party." The ship's systems were still damaged, but Mason managed to restore partial stealth capabilities. They wouldn't be invisible, but they could slip past most routine scans. With Vass at the helm, they set a direct course for the Jorvan corporate headquarters, a massive space station suspended in low orbit over the capital planet. As they approached, Mason pulled up the station schematics. "Landing's not an option. Security's on high alert. But if we dock with one of the maintenance shafts, we can slip inside undetected." Vass grinned. "I like the way you think, human." They executed a risky docking maneuver, latching onto an emergency maintenance port. Mason and Vass pried open the hatch and slipped into the station's underbelly. The corridors were tight and poorly lit, but they moved quickly, following Vass's knowledge of the facility. The corporate headquarters was bustling with activity. News of Vass's death had spread, and Vesk had wasted no time consolidating his power. As they reached the main conference hall, they could hear his smug voice echoing through the chamber. "A new era for Jorvan Enterprises. Under my leadership, we will take bold steps forward, free from outdated influences." Vass's mandibles clicked in irritation. "That slimy traitor. Let's make this interesting." Mason grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." He pulled out a small device, one he had jury-rigged during their flight. It was a simple signal scrambler designed to override the station's audiovisual feeds. With a flick of the switch, every screen in the conference hall changed. Vass's face appeared, alive and furious. "Outdated influences." Her voice echoed through the chamber. "I built this company from nothing, Vesk, and I'm taking it back." Gasps rippled through the gathered executives. Vesk paled, his composure cracking. "Impossible. You're dead." Mason and Vass stepped into the hall. Security moved to intercept them, but Vass held up a hand. "Stand down. Unless you want to explain to the board why you're working for a traitor." Hesitation flickered across the guards' faces. Vass was supposed to be dead, and now she was here, very much alive, calling out the so-called new leader. Vesk scowled. Don't listen to her. She's trying to. Vass stepped forward, her voice cold. Trying to what? Expose you? Call you out for sabotaging my ship? For attempting murder? Murmurs spread through the crowd. Mason amplified the moment, pulling up security footage from the sabotage attempt and displaying it for all to see. The proof was undeniable. Vest's expression shifted from confidence to desperation. You don't understand. This was for the good of the company. Vass's mandibles curled in a smirk. You mean for the good of yourself? The board members exchanged glances. One of them, a senior executive, turned to the security team. Arrest him. Vesk's eyes widened. No, you can't. But it was over. The guards seized him, dragging him away as he sputtered in protest. Vass let out a slow breath. The company was hers again. She turned to Mason, gratitude in her eyes. Couldn't have done it without you. Mason shrugged. Just another day's work. Vass chuckled. Stay with me a while longer, human. I think you'll find Jorvan Enterprises has a very generous benefits package. Mason grinned. I like the sound of that. But deep in the station's security systems, a hidden transmission was sent. Someone had been watching, and they weren't happy. With Vesk arrested and her company back under her control, Vass wasted no time restoring order. The board quickly realigned under her leadership, and Jorvan Enterprises began a new era, one built on loyalty, innovation, and a newfound respect for humanity. Mason, however, wasn't one for board meetings. While Vass navigated the politics of corporate restructuring, he spent his time in the engineering bays, overseeing repairs to her ship. Word of his exploits had spread, and alien mechanics gathered to watch him work, eager to learn the strange, efficient methods of a human engineer. So, you really just hit the panel when it jammed? One of the younger Jorvan engineers asked, watching Mason work. Mason grinned. Not just any hit. Precision application of force. The young mechanic chittered in amusement, jotting notes down. Vass, watching from the doorway, shook her head. You're turning my engineers into hammer-wielding lunatics. Mason wiped his hands. Hey, if it works, it works. For a time, things seemed calm. But Mason had learned to trust his instincts, and something about the way Vesk had gone down so easily didn't sit right with him. Then the message arrived. It was buried deep within the station's security systems, a transmission sent just before Vest's arrest. Mason decrypted it, and what he found sent a chill down his spine. It wasn't just a distress signal. It was a warning. A rival corporation had been watching, waiting for Vass to be weakened. With Vesk gone, they had the perfect excuse to strike. And now, a fleet was en route. Mason rushed to find Vass. We've got a problem. She scanned the transmission and cursed. Damn it, they're moving fast. We don't have time to evacuate. Mason crossed his arms. Then we don't run. We fight. Vass hesitated. Mason, this isn't your fight. He met her gaze. You gave me a job, treated me like an equal. That makes it my fight too. Besides, I'm not letting some corporate goons wipe out the best damn mechanic gig I've ever had. A slow smile spread across Vass's face. Then let's show them what happens when you mess with a Jorvan and her human engineer. The station braced for battle. Engineers rigged defenses, ships were armed, and Vass stood at the helm of her newly repaired flagship, Mason at her side. When the enemy fleet arrived, they weren't met with a weakened corporation. They were met with defiance. The battle raged, but with Vass's leadership and Mason's unorthodox strategies, the enemy was driven back. Humanity's ingenuity, combined with Jorvan resilience, proved to be an unstoppable force. As the last enemy ship retreated, Vass turned to Mason, eyes gleaming. You're a rare one, human. I think I'll keep you. Mason chuckled. Guess I'm officially part of the team, then. Centuries later, historians would look back on this moment as the day Jorvan Enterprises became a true galactic power. And at the heart of it all, the legend of the human mechanic lived on. A whispered phrase among the stars. Human, don't stop.